You've tuned in to Powerhouse On Purpose podcast, your go-to space for inspiration, empowerment, and practical strategies to unlock your potential and step boldly into your purpose. Good morning. Welcome to the Powerhouse On Purpose podcast. We are so excited to have you for the first time here with us. So just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us about you.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. I am Ioana Chei and I am located in Romania and I'm a psychotherapist. I work with children, with teenagers and with their parents mostly, and with some adults. And this is what I do and what I enjoy doing, and it's kind of my track in life.
What has been your favorite experience as far as what you do now?
My favorite experience is the play with the children. We have a lot of fun, but I also enjoy the deep work with their parents and seeing the results and seeing the changes and seeing the world getting better, I think, if you look at it from a big picture.
So tell us a little bit about how you came to do this work. Talk about your community and kind of where you're from.
I am in Eastern Europe, and I started thinking about my life and my purpose and what should I do as a teenager, of course. And I started searching for my way in life. As a kid, I was very sensitive to what people felt because my mom was really changing her mood very quickly. She could be very happy and then very upset with me, and I didn't know what I did. So I learned to read the cues. And then I started observing other people and I started seeing the hurt in the world and asking myself, what can I do about it? And the answer didn't come quickly. I had to look for it. I studied psychology and there were a million options on how to practice it.
Yeah.
But one step led to another, and then I realized I can actually go to the root and change things from there. So that's how I came to work with people on a deeper level.
So it sounds like you provided something that you didn't get. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Which is something I think we all tend to do. You know, we tend to become that thing that we felt like could have possibly helped us. I'm still on my journey. I do believe that communication amongst women and just being open and transformative about our experiences is probably what helped me in my younger years. And so I definitely see how you've come to this track. So tell us how you culminate your experience of your clients. So when they come to you, what's your full desire for them? What is it that you hope to be able to help them with? And what's the best outcome that you could propose?
Well, the main reason why they come is because they lose contact with themselves. They don't put it in words like that, of course. It's usually that there's conflict and they can't handle their emotions or any other reasons. One of the purposes that we have in therapy is getting into contact with themselves, the children with themselves and the parents with themselves, so that after that they can come into relationship authentically. And yes, I think that's actually the purpose of therapy, right?
Yeah. A healed family is a healthy family. I do like the angle of not only helping the child, but also helping the parents, making it a family experience. And I am very big on self-love. It is a big proponent of who I am. And I do believe that when we learn to see ourselves the way we were divinely purposed to be is when we really can love it. You know, when we meld who we want to be and who we're designed to be together, we lose that level of conflict of trying to show up in the world in ways that maybe other people have said. Have you experienced that while helping your clients?
Yes, you put it so beautifully. Yes, I think I discovered self-love recently, late in life. I realized that many of the parents that I work with are still searching for this notion, what is self-love? And they usually get to this question because they want to teach their children what self-love is.
Right.
They want their children to be able to love themselves the way they are. So for that, they, the parents, need to learn how to do that.
Leading by example. Absolutely. I recently made a comment to a friend. I said, we really do become what we see. A lot of times you get a little bit older and you're like, oh, I don't never want to be like my mom, or I don't want to be like my dad. But essentially, most of our framework is really what we saw. The only time it's a little bit different, I would say, is if that person you don't want to be like wasn't in the home. I could see how sometimes having an absent parent could possibly lead to you fabricating who that person is or what you thought it would have been like to have them. Or you propose that you were never there, I'm always going to be there type of thing. But I definitely think we learn from what we see growing up. I can imagine that could be difficult though. As a parent, there's a lot of things that I've had to undo to be the type of parent that I really want to be. I'm very nurturing, I'm very loving, but I'm also, I wouldn't say strict. I've been called strict before, but I felt it was very disciplined about what I would allow my son to do. I wasn't big on sodas growing up. I'm like, it's way too much sugar. Sorry. And I wasn't big on candy, right? But now at 15, if you ask him some of his favorite foods or snacks, he'll say any type of fruit because that was his sugar growing up. If he liked candy or things like that, I would use natural sweets, apples, things like that. And so I believe that cultivating that shows up now, right? But I also was the type of mom where I kept an eye on him. Like, you're not going to get far. I think I had a fear of losing sight of him. I always wanted to make sure I knew what was going on in his life. So now I have a teenager who will tell me literally anything, even what he knows his mom doesn't want to hear, but he will be honest. And so how has it been trying to help your parents understand that about their children? Do they often have moments where they struggle to see themselves in their children, or are they agreeable in that fact?
Well, they do have moments when they struggle and they don't see that, and I mirror that to them oftentimes, and sometimes it's hard for them to take it in. But many times, and that's the beauty of it, they do take it in and they do make changes. Or they say, I'm overwhelmed right now and I need a moment, or I need some more support in order to get to where I need to be, to where I want to be.
I think that's good that they have at least that level of acknowledgement and awareness. I would wonder though, do you deal with blended families at all?
Can you tell me what?
So do you typically deal with step parents? Do you deal with parents that maybe had children prior to getting together, prior to marriage?
Yes, there are some blended families that I work with, and there are a lot of split families that did not remarry. The parents did not remarry, but they struggled to cooperate, to work together for the child.
Oh man. I can definitely identify. My son's dad and I split when he was 3 years old. And my ex-husband, he was military and we were in another state that we were not from. And so it was an interesting time. He did ask me for the divorce and I just agreed. And with the divorce, the custody and everything, I just agreed. Everything was for me. I assumed, being that I knew him since I was 7 years old, I felt that he'd be responsible, he'd be a great dad, and he didn't want to be a husband anymore, but I felt like as a father, nothing would change. And I was wrong. And so over the years, trying to co-parent, trying to have a consensus of how to raise this child, we really didn't agree. I felt that he seemingly decided at some point, because while he was in the military, I didn't work, but that was only about a year of our relationship. So he felt that because he felt he had done enough for 5 years to where he could go another 5 not doing anything, and I should do it on my own. And so just imagine the immense conversations that turn into arguments, that turn into silence after a while. I just wouldn't say anything. And I did do the work by myself. I was a single mom, but I was very aware of what that could do to our son. Not having your father, because he left the state. And so he was over 8 hours away by that point. And so I'm like, well, I want him to be in his dad's life, but I do want to have rights. I do want to have things in place. I do want to have a custody agreement. And so we went back to court, and even that was taxing. That was tough. But we came to an agreement, and I think for the past, I would say 10 years, we've done well. We've gotten better over time. I would say it's been the best within the last 5. But it takes time to come to a place to let your personal feelings be set aside, to forget what you felt like when the divorce happened, forget what you would have desired to have originally, and allowing yourself to grieve what didn't happen. So, do you deal with
Yeah.
grief with your parents? Do you typically have to deal with the things that they have to let go of in order to get to the space to be able to fully support their children?
Of course. Yes. Even divorce is grief, right?
Absolutely.
And it's loss and wanting to have something for your kid that you don't have right now requires, well, accept the loss of what you dreamed of and get real, get in reality in the present and deal with what is instead of wishing it was different. And that's hard. That's hard for them, and I admit it's hard for me sometimes to accept what is. And yes, grief and loss are part of the process with the parents and sometimes with the children, because the child also dreams of, has an image of the family, for example, how he wants the family to be. And it's not like that. When the parents split up, it's not how the child wants it. So there's loss there, and yes, we are dealing with it in therapy.
That makes me tear up a little bit because I think it was yesterday or the day before, maybe the day before, my son and I were in the car, and he told me that he thinks about or still wonders what it would be like to not be an only child. So he is my only biological son. My current husband and I have an older son who's years older than my child, or my youngest, and they didn't really bond. We came in when they were, I think, 11 and 13. Yeah, 11 and 13. And he thought he was going to get this, big brother experience. And finally, I have a brother that's going to do stuff with me. We're going to play the game, and we're going to hang out, and we're just going to do all these things. And they're two totally different people. Our oldest is introverted. He's typically in his room. He doesn't have friends over at all, usually. He just doesn't do a lot. And he's very quiet and reserved. And my son is the people person. He wants to talk. He wants to have people over. His birthdays, he's like, I got like 10 people that I want to be there, and he's always been that kid. And so that just really touched my heart a little bit because he told me I still think about moments where, what if I wasn't by myself? Because that's how it feels for him. It's lonely. And I am one of 13. I don't know what that loneliness is. I grew up with it was 4 of us in my mom's house, but my dad 6 years ago began to have children again. So I have siblings who are 6 and under. I have 6 of them now. So there's 13 of us in all.
Wow.
And so me and my sister, she's the oldest, I'm the second born. We were the only girls until last year. And so I told him, even with me, I had this desire, this craving to have this closeness with my sister. I'm like, it's just me and her. She's my only sister. And so growing up, I wanted so badly to be like these, like Bunny and Clyde, like we were each other's everything. And it just never happened that way. Our personalities don't mesh that well to be that type of sister bond. She took on more of the role of parent. And so I didn't get that level of sister. And so I tried to identify with him on what it's like to desire something that you didn't get. And I'm on my healing journey. I started therapy a few years back to start to go through the steps of, I don't want to say killing that desire, but absolutely trying to understand it so that I could let go of that desire and accept what is and still stay open to what could be. You never know what we could become in our later years. Things change all the time. But I had to let go of a mindset that I've had at that time for over 30 years of what we would have been had we just, been different, or had we just decided to be these type of sisters. And so do you deal with that with the children? do you go through a process with them of what they thought their life would be like when things didn't go well, when parents didn't stay together? Do you work through those things with the kids when you deal with the family?
Yes, yes. We work through play, of course, because that's the language of the children. But yeah, we work on that. And we not only when it's about separation, but as you talked about siblings, it's usually the older brother or sister that loses the attention and the time of the parent, and they imagine it would be great to be just me. And yeah, we work on that too. And on acceptance. What can you get out of the present situation, right? What's the beauty of what is? And yeah, we grieve and we accept the emotions because there are a lot of emotions there. And I usually help children understand that all these emotions, I don't call them negative and positive because I don't think they are. I call them pleasant and unpleasant. Some of them are really unpleasant and we don't really want to deal with them, but it's useful to deal with them. And they're our friends and they're communicating something to us.
Yeah.
And that's the work we
That is absolutely amazing. I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, what if I had an Ioana when I was a kid? My parents were teenagers and they did not stay together. And so I believe I grew up not only in a single parent household, but a very female led household. And then we also lived with my grandmother for some time because like I said, my mother was a teenager when she started having children. So I, I'm just wondering, what if I had someone who could cultivate what I was experiencing, right? And so that's why I think the work you do is absolutely necessary and it's so needed in so many different places in the world. Like you said, having a world impact, a global impact. And so, what is it, if you had one thing that you could encourage anybody in the world with the work that you do, what would be that statement that you would give them? What would be that level of advice that you feel that anybody could use?
I think it's a two-folded advice. One is be present, which is, I know it's easier said than done. It sounds so easy, but it's not. And don't do life alone. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be with each other. We're made for that, for relationships. So yeah, find your pack, find your people, find the people that can support you and that you can support.
Yeah. Look, I'm still struggling because when my son told me he essentially can be lonely at times, it's heavy, right? And I was just sitting here thinking, when my time comes, when I transition from this life, hopefully I'll go before my child. It's going to be him. He's going to lose a mom, and there'll be nobody else who'll lose a mom. But when I experience my parents, I have several siblings who are going to experience that with me. And so I think the one thing I can give my child is to do that, have community.
Yeah.
Lean on those who love you, lean on those who know you well. I did let him know that I have sisters who were not born to either one of my parents. They have been in my life since I was a kid. I have friends who I've been friends with for over 20 years, and those are my sisters. And so just encouraging him in that vein to have community, have real relationships. He's so good at it. He's way better than me at meeting people, creating genuine friendship. Me and my husband just talked yesterday about how my son, he takes in those who aren't accepted. He's going to be a friend to those who can't find one. Those are his favorite people. And so I know he'll be okay, but it brings a level of sadness because, of course, I'm also like, did I do this to him? But I know I shouldn't have had any more children with his dad. I mean, we didn't last, right? And so I do believe God does everything for a reason. I know I'm his mother for a reason. And I do know I didn't have any more children. And I say yet because my husband and I are not preventative. And so we never know. But it's comforting to know that community can become family, that friends can become family. That's been my experience. And so that's the community impact. And I definitely agree with the advice that you gave. It's invaluable to have a community that understands you. Probably over the last, I would say 3 years, I had this thing where I would pray and I would say, God, where's my tribe? Where's my tribe? Where's my tribe? Because I would always feel like everybody who knows me don't really know me. They know who I was growing up. They know what I allow them to see. I'm not very expressive in who I am. I've been in, the Christian faith for many, many years, but I remember one of my friends who I've been friends with probably since the 8th grade or so. One day she was like, I didn't know you were into church like that. And I was thinking to myself, how do you not know that? But at the same time, I don't tell people anything. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't allowing myself to be availed to more than who lived in my house. And so my husband knows me and my children know me, but that's about as far as I would go. Outside in the world, I gave what was necessary. If I'm at work, I work. If I'm at the library, I'm silently over in the corner reading. I didn't come here to meet people. I didn't come here to engage, right? And so that's something I've learned over the last 5 years to break those barriers. Childhood experiences taught me to pretty much hinder my personality. I felt like sometimes who I was could cause chaos. That's what my household felt like because I questioned things because I wasn't always so agreeable. I was a why child, is what I call it. You could ask me to do anything and I'm probably going to do it, but why? And, growing up, that's disrespectful. You do not question me, is what I remember hearing. And so I used to just be like, but why though? I really want to know. And I don't think I was understood in that way. And so I dialed back who I'm truly designed to be. I love information. I love questions. I love to do what we're doing right now, but I've only started to do it in the last 5 years because I had to accept that it was okay to be me. And so I definitely agree with your advice. And I want to thank you for the work that you do. I want you to know how needed you are and how you're
Thank you.
designed. I pray that there are others of you touching other parts of the world. I know one person can't do it all, but one person doing what they're purposed to do could change
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for these kind words. And I resonate with what you said so much. I felt the same way growing up. And as an introvert, I always
Yeah.
thought until about 4 years ago that an introvert doesn't like people.
That's what they say.
and and I came to learn that that's not true. I love people and I need people. And yes, I have friends that are like my siblings because we get each other. We really get each other. And then I have my brother that I love. I adore him, but we are so different. He's an extrovert, like the book extrovert.
Yeah.
And we go through things so differently, you know.
I
I
think I think that's what I had to accept. I'm introverted. I'm an introvert that loves people as well. And I do believe that that is a stereotype that has been perpetuated over the last few years. That is untrue. We love people. It's just that people take energy from us, right? And so who wants to be
Yeah.
exhausted? Nobody chooses to be exhausted, but that's what it does for us. And so the avoidance of exhaustion looks like I don't like people, but that's not it. I love people and I love getting to know them. I love talking to them. I will literally talk to anyone. I'm a great listener as well because I'm introverted. I can let you go on for hours and I will nod and I'm going to remember what you say and I'm going to house it, and I'm truly interested in your life experience, things you've gone through, or just where you are. And I'm always going to be seeking to see if I can help. So even as an introvert, my heart goes out to people and I do love them, but it is exhausting. And once you understand who you are as an introvert, it's like, oh, I can give this party 2 hours and then I'm going home. You begin to
Yeah.
understand yourself better. And so even with that, we have that in common. I do think there's a commonality in broken relationships with mothers or sisters growing up, even just the women in your household, and how we relate to women as we get older. Growing up, I was very mindful of my woman to woman relationships. I put a very strict, I think I would call it, time frame. Like, I didn't talk on the phone a lot. I wasn't going to spend a lot of time with you. Like, we could see each other, but not, you weren't going to be at my house every day, and we weren't going to talk all the time. And it's something in my mind that said that if me and the closest woman to me at that time, in my mind, my sister, being born in the same household to the same parents, having the same life experience as children, doesn't want to do that, I couldn't imagine that there were other people on the planet who would want to talk to me on the phone. Because we don't, me and my sisters still now, we don't really do that. I have someone from church, and she's not even just like a mom, she is a mom to me. She called the other day, and so we were talking, and she was like, "Oh, you know, da, da, da." And I was like, "Yeah, me and my mom don't talk much on the phone. Me and her were on the phone for over 2 hours." And I was like, "Yeah, me and my mom don't talk much on the phone." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, me and my mom don't really." And so it was odd for her. It was for me. I'm like, "Oh, this is Wednesday. This is normal." And I don't think anything's wrong with it, but it did make me think about it, right? It made me think, are me and my mom not close? But I think we're extremely close. And I love my mother. It's just not what we do. But there are other experiences, other people you'll meet that you do become those things with. And so, are there any final thoughts, any other things you would like to share that you want to make sure you say on this podcast here today?
Yeah, because we started with self love and we got to introversion.
Yeah.
And sometimes being introvert, that's the side of ourselves that we don't like as much. And I often hear parents that are introverted saying, I don't want my child to be like me. You know, they don't really mean introverted, but the bad side, and I'm putting bad
Agreed.
into quotes because it's not a bad side. And actually we have dark side and bright sides that we need to learn to love equally because they are all part of us and they are all beneficial at some point. Each part that we have that we think, I don't really like this, it's doing something for us.
Wow.
And it's helping us in some way. So yeah, I think self-love means also looking at those sides that you don't really like and seeing what they bring good into your life and how you can use them for the better.
Do you have an example? Is there some dark side of you, what could be considered dark to others, that you have accepted?
Yes, I'm very stubborn. I'm extremely stubborn. And I realized at some point that my stubbornness makes me lose things. I would miss out on things just because I was stubborn. And I am stubborn still. But that also makes me be decisive and makes me stand my ground. And I think I can use that really well. And if I'm aware of the moments when my stubbornness is not that good for me, I can deal with it and I can navigate that for the better of myself and my relationships.
That's that is so good. I can identify. I can be stubborn, unfortunately. My husband would definitely agree. He was one of the first people to tell me that. And I was like, well, no, I'm not. But I thought I was being decisive and I was being forthcoming and direct. And it's like, I'm not doing that. And then I would just stand on it. He's like, you didn't even try to compromise. I'm like, because I'm not doing it. It's just not happening. So I definitely get that. Something that I do have experienced with me, I can be socially awkward. I spent so many years by myself and doing my own thing and not needing human relationship, but knowing that human relationship wasn't always my strong suit. I learned to live without it. I've learned to
It
navigate the
does.
world with limited relationship. But something that I had to accept about myself, I find it very difficult to be partial in relationship. This little thing I've built around it is 0 or 100. If we're in relationship, we're probably in full on relationship for me. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to love like I always do. I'm going to support you like I always do. I really don't have a gauge of partiality. Like, I don't know how to be 50% in relationship. And I've had people tell me that's dangerous and it's unsafe. And then I've had people tell me it's a beautiful thing because most people can't do that. And then I sort of fall somewhere right now on the spectrum trying to figure out where I am on that. So is there something I should do about it? Is there something I should change? But I've been told that, so I say we met just naturally out in the world, and I would want to know you. And so I'd say, hey, so what do you do? Okay, okay, awesome. So tell me about that. Like, what is that? I'm that person. And my husband would be like, people don't want to do that when they first meet you. I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know. He's like, it's not comfortable because they don't know you yet. People sometimes aren't as forthcoming because they don't know why you're asking. For me, I'm like, oh, I just want to know who they were. And I'm really interested and intrigued. And so navigating this new part of life where I'm trying to be who I am, love myself in my fullness, accept my social awkwardness, because I guess people don't ask these deeper questions when they initially meet. Um, has been a journey, and it's still a journey. And I think it's probably a life journey. I don't know if it'll ever be something that I just get down or perfectly package up. I've just started to try to cultivate different experiences that allow me to be who I am and allow me to become because the space calls for it. So something I have coming up, I'm doing what I call a power panel. I'm bringing people of certain powerhouse experiences together live in an experience to talk about a topic. I think I'll thrive there because this is what I do. And so what would you recommend when your families are at the end of their journey with you? What do you recommend they do once they enter the world or come out of the space of being in office with you? How do you help them transition to that new way of life once they're home and they're navigating that new space of everything they've learned with you?
Well, the transition is step by step because we work together throughout the entire process. I see them parents every month and I see the child every week, and they take things. I give them little things that they can change every step of the way so that when we're done, they already have some habits and they already made some changes. And I always leave the door open, metaphorically speaking, for them to come whenever they need support or just, a push in order to get back on track. But yes, they take little by little and they build on each thing that they get, each tool, and they begin using it so that when we're ending the process, they are on their feet, so to speak.
That's beautiful. So you pretty much walk with them and grow with them as they mature and grow and change and maneuver. You're there with them. And that is beautiful. That's an amazing process. I can imagine. As I said, I wonder what I would have done if we had that experience. And even though I'm an adult, I still wonder if that's something my family should experience. Do you recommend it to adult families? Like, do you recommend, even if there's no minor child, would this be something you recommend?
I think talking at this age, we don't play anymore, but we kind of play. But talking about our emotions and how they make us feel and ask how we made them feel, that brings us together. And I can say my mom will be 70 this year. And over the last year, we had the most amazing talks because I went to her like never before and said, these are my feelings when this happens. And it was hard for both of us. But then she was able to come to me and say, these are my feelings. And that's amazing to do because she wasn't used to it and I wasn't used to it as a child. So we're learning together and we're evolving together. So that's what I would recommend. Go from the heart and put it into words.
That'd be a dream if I could get that, which preferably my parents are still young. I do believe they're not in that space yet. More so my dad, to be honest about those feelings. I don't think he's ready to hear how we felt as kids. I believe, honestly, him starting to having children again, I think he's wanting to correct some things from his first set, to be honest. But I don't know that for sure because we do not genuinely talk about how we felt or our own experiences. And I do hope that day comes though. And so you've given me such insight, such hope, and just reassurance that this type of work is going on in the world and people are getting the help they need and families are changing and growing and maturing. And maybe that little girl you helped along the way won't become me trying to figure out who she is and what she learned and having to undo so much at 35. And so appreciative of who you are and how you allowed your purpose to be your place in the world. And I believe on purpose to do this. And so purpose to bring this type of information to women everywhere, even to men, because I would love to say that men don't watch my podcast, but I know my husband does. Every single episode he is going to support. So I can't say just women. And the information always translates. Even though it's women talking, it's women being empowered, it always translates. And so I'm grateful for that as well.
My name is Ioana, and I'm a powerhouse.
Perfect. And so thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful for this. And I think I'll leave with presence, because I was fully present here because your presence brought me in, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Presence is the one that we need to seek.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to receive future notifications and to stay plugged in to the Powerhouse.